The ship descended through the thin atmosphere of the dead world, its engines humming softly as it approached the surface. Dr. Valara pressed her face against the viewing screen, her three eyes blinking in rapid succession. She had spent 40 cycles studying ancient civilizations across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared her for what the preliminary scans had shown. The ruins below were old, impossibly old. "Readings confirmed," announced Technician Gorath from his station, his scaled fingers moving across the holographic display. "The structures date back approximately 12 billion cycles. That predates the founding era of the Korvathi by 7 billion cycles." Valara felt her twin hearts skip their rhythm. The Korvathi were considered the first spacefaring civilization in known history. Every species in the Galactic Council traced their technological heritage back to the ancient Korvathi in some way. Their ruins were scattered across 1,000 worlds, studied and preserved as the birthplace of interstellar culture. But these readings suggested something existed before them, something far older. "Impossible," muttered Commander Dex, the expedition's military escort. His massive frame filled the doorway of the observation deck. "Your instruments must be damaged." Nothing existed before the Korvathi. The Council's historical records are clear on this matter. Valara shook her head slowly, her tentacles curling with excitement. "The instruments are functioning perfectly, Commander. I had them recalibrated 3 times before we entered this system. Whatever built these structures did so when the galaxy itself was young. The landing was smooth, and within the hour, the team had assembled outside the ship. The world was silent and cold, its atmosphere barely breathable even with their environmental suits. Red dust covered everything, and the twin suns hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape. Before them stood the ruins. Massive structures of metal and stone rose from the ground, their architecture unlike anything in the Council's historical databases. The buildings were tall and angular, with smooth surfaces that had somehow resisted billions of cycles of erosion. Strange symbols covered every visible surface, repeating patterns that seemed both mathematical and artistic in nature. "Begin documentation," Valara ordered, her voice trembling slightly. "I want every structure mapped and cataloged. Take samples from every material you can safely extract." The team spread out across the site, their scanning equipment humming with activity. Gorath approached one of the larger structures, a towering monument that rose nearly 50 meters into the pale sky. He ran his scanner across its surface, watching the data stream across his display. "Dr. Valara, you need to see this." She hurried to his side, her tentacles leaving trails in the red dust. Gorath pointed to a section of the monument where the erosion had exposed something beneath the outer layer. "There's a chamber inside, sealed. The scanner is detecting preserved organic material within." Valara's breath caught in her throat. Preserved organics from 12 billion cycles ago? If they could extract genetic material, they could finally identify the species responsible for these structures. The discovery would rewrite everything the galaxy knew about its own history. "Can we open it safely?" Gorath studied the readings for a long moment. "The seal appears to be mechanical rather than technological, a simple pressure lock. These builders wanted their legacy to be accessible." Commander Vex stepped forward, his hand resting on the weapon at his side. "We should proceed with caution. We have no idea what might be inside." Valara nodded, but her curiosity far outweighed her caution. She gave the order, and Gorath began working on the seal. It took nearly an hour of careful manipulation, but eventually, with a soft hiss of escaping atmosphere, the chamber opened. Inside, perfectly preserved by the vacuum seal, lay a figure. It was bipedal, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a single rounded head. Its skin was pale and smooth, its eyes closed in what appeared to be peaceful rest. It wore a simple garment of woven material, and its hands were folded across its chest. Around the figure were arranged dozens of objects. Tools made of metal and stone, containers filled with seeds and dried organic matter. Small devices of unknown purpose. And tablets. Hundreds of tablets covered in the same symbols that decorated the outer structures. "By the ancestors," whispered Gorath. "They left us a message." Valara stepped into the chamber, moving carefully around the preserved figure. She picked up one of the tablets, feeling its weight in her hands. The symbols were precise, carved with obvious care and intention. "Begin translation protocols," she ordered. "Cross-reference with every known linguistic database." Someone in the galaxy must have encountered these symbols before. The work took 3 days. The translation algorithms struggled with the alien syntax, but slowly, patterns emerged. The symbols represented sounds, which combined to form words, which combined to form sentences. It was a language designed to be decoded, structured in ways that invited understanding. When the first complete passage appeared on Valara's display, she felt the world shift beneath her feet. "We are humanity. We were the first to walk among the stars. We seeded life across the galaxy, hoping that one day others would follow in our footsteps. We built monuments so that when you found us, you would know that you are not alone. You were never alone. We were here. We are still here, in every world where life has taken root, in every civilization that has reached for the sky." Commander Dex read the passage over her shoulder, his expression shifting from skepticism to confusion to something approaching fear. "Humanity," he repeated. "I have heard this word before. The Terran species uses it." Valara's tentacles went rigid with shock. The Terrans were newcomers to the galactic stage, a young species that had achieved spaceflight barely 200 cycles ago. They were known for their resilience and adaptability, but they were not considered particularly significant in the grand scheme of galactic politics. Their homeworld was a small blue planet on the outer edge of an unremarkable spiral arm. "That cannot be," she said. "The Terrans are children compared to the established civilizations. How could they be connected to something this ancient?" But even as she spoke, her mind was racing through the implications. The tablets continued to reveal their secrets over the following days. They told the story of a species that had risen on a water world, looked up at the stars with wonder, and decided to explore. They built ships that could travel between systems. They discovered worlds teeming with primitive life and worlds that were barren and cold. And they made a choice. We could not stay forever. Our time was ending, as all things must end. But we did not want the universe to be empty after we were gone, so we planted seeds. On every world where conditions were right, we left the building blocks of life. We coded instructions into the very fabric of biology, hoping that one day new minds would arise to appreciate the beauty of existence. Valara sat back from her display, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she was reading. The ancient humans had seeded life across the galaxy. Every known species, every civilization that had ever existed, owed its existence to these long-dead ancestors. And then there was the matter of the Terrans. "We left one world untouched," the tablets explained. "Our homeworld. We removed all traces of our technology, all evidence of our civilization. We wanted our descendants to have the joy of discovery that we had experienced. We wanted them to earn their place among the stars, not inherit it. So we hid ourselves away and let the natural processes of evolution take their course. One day, they would rise again. One day, they would find these monuments and learn the truth. One day, they would know that they are the inheritors of the universe." Commander Dex had stopped pacing. He stood perfectly still, staring at the preserved human in the chamber. "The Terrans are not newcomers," he said slowly. "They are the originals. They have simply forgotten." Valara nodded, her mind struggling to process the implications. The galactic order was based on the assumption that the older species held wisdom and authority. The Kovathi had guided younger civilizations for billions of cycles, claiming precedence based on their ancient heritage. But the Kovathi were not the first. They were just another branch on a tree planted by human hands. "What do we do with this information?" asked Gorth quietly. "If we reveal this to the Council, it could destabilize everything. The Kovathi will resist. They have built their entire culture around being the founders." Valara looked at the human face, frozen in eternal sleep. Whoever this individual had been, they had volunteered to remain here for billions of cycles, waiting for someone to find them, waiting to deliver a message that would change everything. "We tell the truth," she said finally. "That is what scientists do. We tell the truth and let others decide what to do with it." The return journey to Council space took several weeks. Valara spent every hour studying the tablets, uncovering more details about the ancient humans. They had faced extinction from an event the tablets referred to only as the Burning. Rather than accept oblivion, they had poured their remaining resources into a final project. They sent ships to every corner of the galaxy, carrying genetic samples, biological templates, and instructions coded into the fabric of life itself. "We do not ask to be remembered," one passage read. "We ask only that our children continue the journey we began. Look up at the stars. Ask questions. Seek understanding. Love each other. This is our legacy. This is all we have to give." When the expedition ship arrived at the Council station, news of their discovery had already spread through unofficial channels. Representatives from a dozen species were waiting at the docking bay, their expressions ranging from skeptical to hostile. Valara stepped off the ship carrying a single tablet in her hands. The symbols carved into its surface caught the light, and for a moment, the assembled crowd fell silent. "I have a message," she announced, "from the ones who came before, from humanity." In the months that followed, the galaxy was transformed. The Kovathi initially denied the findings, but when independent teams confirmed the dating and translation of the artifacts, denial became impossible. Some species reacted with anger, feeling that their history had been stolen from them. Others responded with wonder, marveling at the idea that they were all connected by a common ancestor. The Terrans themselves were the most affected. When the news reached their homeworld, celebrations erupted in every city. For generations, they had felt like outsiders in a galaxy dominated by older civilizations. Now they understood why they had always felt a deep connection to the stars. It was in their blood. It was in their very cells. Within a decade, Terran scientists had reverse-engineered several technologies described in the tablets. Their ships became faster, their power systems more efficient, their understanding of the universe deeper and more profound. They did not seek to dominate the galaxy, despite their newfound heritage. Instead, they became teachers and healers, sharing the knowledge their ancestors had left behind. Dr. Valara watched these developments from her research station, surrounded by the artifacts she had brought back from the dead world. She often looked at the preserved human, wondering what thoughts had passed through that ancient mind in the moments before the long sleep began. "Did you know?" she would ask sometimes. "Did you know that we would find you? Did you know that we would understand?" The human never answered, of course. But Valara liked to think that somewhere, across the vast distances of time and space, the ancient ones were watching. They had planted seeds, and those seeds had grown into a forest of civilizations that stretched across the galaxy. Their children had found their way home. And in the end, that was all they had ever wanted.